on in life, and the peace of mind knowing that they can do it in a safe place and come home at the end of the day and enjoy then time as a family. And so now I know very well from firsthand experience the anxiety of a new parent putting their trust in a professional and an organization or a business or an institution, caring for a loved one, whether that's just during the workday or extended period of time, and for many of our children who have profound special needs, perhaps more than just a daily basis. And so for all of us as parents, we know that when we let go of our child in the beginning of the day or at the end of the day because we're working an overnight shift, that we have to have the peace of mind necessary knowing that our children are in the very best of hands.
Thank you. Kennedy Catlin.
Child care for me means a family unit. I think right now, walking the district and talking to a lot of people, one of the big things that I hear is affordability. People are working longer hours for much less pay. I think we need to push $15 minimum wage. I stand by what I say. Every member of my campaign team makes $15 an hour. I think it's really important for us to push this because everyone who does have a job should take pride in their job, to be able to make $15 an hour and try to provide a decent lifestyle for their family. There was a time that one individual could work and provide for a family, for a wife and 2 kids. That no longer really does work. I walked in Suffolk County and I met a woman who told me she's been working at a hospital for 11 years and she's still making below $13 an hour. That's not the America that I know. I know we can do so much better. We need to really lift our middle class so that they could have that quality of life with their families, to be able to spend time with them and see their kids grow up. Thank you.
Child care represents one of the great divides of wealth in our country. One of the problems with child care is that people who really need it don't have access to it. It's incredibly expensive. There's not a lot of it. There's limitations to those who need it most. And I can tell you that I think one of the great responsibilities that anyone who's in elective office has is to try to make sure that child care is accessible to all people. People that are working when both parents have to work or single parents are trying to work and they can't find safe, reliable child care for their child who's at a very, very young age. But by the way, it's even more expensive and more difficult because you need one person per 2 or 3 children at a very young age. As they get a little older, you can spread it out a little bit. You can have 4 or 5 kids. But then what do? Do you find a basement apartment where somebody's just watching your kid, where there's no safety measures? Maybe it's an illegal apartment. Do you just rely on a neighbor? There are pools. There are other unsafe conditions. What we really need is to make sure that everybody has access to safe, reliable child care, and it cannot be based on your ability to pay, because at the end of the day, the people who have wealth and means will always find that child care, even if they work or not. But the people who are working and surviving based on their single salary or even their salary of both parents are struggling. And if all your income that you're making is just going to pay for your child care, you're not pulling yourself out. And then, of course, it goes into health care and other issues in terms of the struggles that one faces come to bear. So child care is about the economic divide and how we try to help solve it.
Thank you. Our next question will begin with candidate Stern. It's a 2-part question. Okay. What have you done, either personally or professionally, to improve the lives of children? And what makes you the best candidate for kids?
Well, a proven record of leadership, particularly when it comes to protecting our children and the most vulnerable in our community. As I mentioned during my opening, I am the co-author, co-sponsor of some of the most aggressive legislation in the entire nation when it comes to protecting our children from violent sexual predators. I wrote the very first sustainable procurement policy in all of New York State, which means that our local governments need to do a much, much better job and now have strict requirements on purchasing the kind of products that are safer, chemical-free, particularly when it comes to how we use it on with our children and our most vulnerable in their formative years. I wrote the very first BPA ban in the entire country, from being sold to parents, new parents, baby products, again, protecting our most vulnerable. And so we could talk about children or being our most precious resource, and of course that is very true, and as the parent of young children I know that very well. But ultimately, in answering the second part of your question, who you vote for and who you send to Congress as your next representative has to have a proven record of leadership on these very critical issues, particularly because it's going to take that kind of experience to be able to juggle the priorities that we set and share our values to make sure that we get the federal resources right here in our local communities to protect our children.
Thank you. Candidate Kaplan.
My first year in the office, after Labor Day, I got a visit from a couple of ladies who run different after-school programs in EOC building that I mentioned before. They came in and they said that Thursday they were going to lose their electricity and also their gas because they had a bill of $20,000, I believe, in gas and electricity, and they wanted my help. I had 3 days really to work on this. I started calling some of the other elected officials on all different levels of government to see what I could do to help them. I made an appointment with that, at the time it was LIPA and Greenspan, to go and talk to them, see if there was anything we could do. I found out that they, of course, can't forgive any of the debt. I wrote a letter. It ended up in one of the local papers. And I can tell you we raised $22,000 for them. We put them on a budget that was agreed by LIPA and Greenspan. Every month, they would make a payment of X amount and try to catch up with all the amounts that they had unpaid and be on a schedule so that they wouldn't fall behind. That process really taught me how we can work together, not just as electeds, but also with the private community. I called several people and I said, I need your help with this. And this is something that's really worthwhile. It's schools. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
What was the first part of the question?
What have you done either personally or professionally to improve the lives of children, and why are you the best candidate for children?
So, I've been involved in public service for a long time. I served as a judge, I served as a town supervisor of North Hempstead. I worked with the governor. Every job I've had the responsibility of helping individuals, helping families. My approach is to, of course, try to help children any way I can. But the larger macro goal is to make sure that we're fulfilling our obligation. You know, as town supervisor, I created numerous programs. I'll just take one that's a little bit different than all the rest. I actually created a program that helps seniors, seniors who are called Project Independence, that helps seniors age in place. But one of the things we found was that some of the seniors were dealing with a responsibility of helping young children because their child was either had passed away, was in jail, was incapacitated, and so they, 70, 80, 90 years old, had to be the primary caregiver of their very young children. So I went to the social services agency, North Shore Family Guidance, and came up with a grant program where we would help the seniors, who are the primary caregiver for young children, understand and how to help and help grow a young child. How to deal with the changing world that they weren't quite prepared for in terms of where they were in their life. And so by this one simple little program, we ended up helping hundreds of families with children who were being helped by the primary caregiver, and that being a senior.
Thank you. Candidate Clark.
So I've never held office before, so I can't say any legislation that I've passed, but I am an attorney and I have my own firm. And I take my pro bono responsibilities very seriously. And oftentimes, the pro bono cases I do take involve family court. So there are confidentiality issues, and I can't express cases directly, but there's often times where we'll find a father who's hiding money, who's getting money off the books, and is refusing to take care of their child. And I've taken a number of these cases, and I fight very hard for them. And for me, that is how, with my firm, I've helped children. Now, as to the second part of the question, why I think I would be the best candidate up here to represent children, I think that the most vulnerable among us are the ones that come from the lower income brackets. Now, I grew up, my father was a disabled veteran, and he grew up on Social Security disability. I grew up on Social Security disability. And I went to a failing school in Freeport, and I know how difficult it is and how far it sets you behind to live a life like that where you're always trying to catch up and there's not enough money to survive. So I understand that you can pass laws if you've never experienced a situation. You can pass adequate laws, but it becomes something very different. It becomes something very personal to you when you've experienced it yourself, and you've gone through the suffering, and you know firsthand what needs to be done in order to graduate, just to simply graduate, how hard that is. So I think I would be the best candidate for children because I've experienced the problems that many children have experienced.
Thank you. We are going to turn this next part over to the audience. We will start with a few of the questions that we have here. First, I would like to call Kim Revere of Kings Park in the Know to ask your question. You know what? I can move. I can come where you are. Would that be easier, or you guys want to come up here? Okay.
Kim has to leave for the evening. My name is Susan Crowley, and I'm Vice President of Kings Park in the Know. And my question is, what are some of your ideas to address the growing heroin epidemic with our youth?
Oh, sorry. We are beginning with candidate Kaplan.
About 150 people annually die in Long Island from heroin overdose. This is something that's affecting all of our communities, and we really do need to take a very serious look at this. I will push very hard to get more funding, to do preventions, and also to find insurance companies and make them be responsible to help some of these addicts. This heroin epidemic just happened because of all the legal prescription drugs that was available to a lot of people. And once they stopped getting those, it has moved into the street, and they know that it's very easy to get the heroin. It's much cheaper and much easier to get. It's something that we need to prevent. We need to teach our kids. We need to have a lot of programs where it could have prevention programs, and also deal with the ones who are addicted right now and get them some help. Thank you.
You know, we tend to look in society at people who are in a bad place and condemn them and look to punish them. We need to spend a lot more time trying to help people. There is a punitive aspect when someone breaks the law, and that's how they get brought into the system. But there needs to be a mechanism where we're investing dollars. When someone gets brought into our system, whether it's through a court, whether it's through a school, wherever we find them, whether it's through a hospital, and give them additional support. A lot of times people will have an addiction of some sort and not be able to handle it because they just don't have the resources. They can't, if other family members try to help them, they'll lose their job. Certainly, there's a prevention aspect of this. I know that when we tried to start a program where we collected unused narcotics in people's medicine chests, just to collect them so they're not sitting there, because 4 to 5 people who start harder drugs start by taking drugs out of their medicine chest or someone else's medicine chest. Just collecting those drugs. A lot of schools wouldn't participate with us because they didn't want to acknowledge that people in their school were using these drugs, because that might depress their reputation or their home values. And so they passed. We had the same issue with gang-related programs years ago. And so ultimately we had to get parents and the schools to join with us and really push the school administrators to, was that the end or is it? Push the school administrators to let us do these programs with the parents in the schools, to educate the children, and at the same time make sure that those who are already stuck in this awful situation, that they have the resources to get out of it.
Thank you. Candidate Clark.
I wish we had more time to talk about this one because, you know, the problem is we don't really understand why the heroin epidemic is so bad. And we need to do further studies on this. I mean, it's easy to blame the doctors that they're overprescribing, but there's more to it than just that. Along the border of Mexico, they've quadrupled the amount of arrests that are being had through the Sinaloa cartel pushing heroin into this country. And this is an issue that, in some ways, it affects rich people just as much as it affects poor people. It used to be that heroin was very expensive, $150 for a certain amount, where now it's $4 to $7 for a very pure heroin. So this is making it very, very accessible. And what I was reading today is that there used to be a stigma attached to heroin because you'd have to inject it, but the actual purity of it now is allowing people to snort it. So in some senses, it's not as offensive for someone to do it because it's easier to take into their system. So, you know, how do we solve that? That I don't know. How do we had a war on drugs and it wasn't very effective in the 80s. And we don't want to duplicate the war on drugs again now. So, you know, that's sort of out of the question. And then, you know, that's one part of it. And this issue is so multifaceted because now we have to understand that there's the second part to it, which is the addiction part. And like I said earlier, and it's a reoccurring theme, we don't fund mental health care in this country.
Thank you. Thank you.
The opioid problem is public enemy number one, and it affects all of our communities, and if it hasn't had an impact on our families or someone that we know, someone that we love, it certainly may in the future. And Susan, we were talking earlier before that it knows no boundaries, it knows no socioeconomic family status. It is a challenge for our entire community and our entire country. And so it really is an all-of-the-above approach. It has to be education and prevention, particularly in our elementary schools at the very youngest of levels in the most appropriate way possible. But education and prevention, we need to be much more aggressive. Certainly when it comes to law enforcement, we need to be that much more aggressive. And we're starting to see that here locally, particularly with our new police commissioner, who by background is a federal prosecutor. And so you can start to see success because he knows that we need a much more aggressive federal involvement at the local law enforcement level, not just here, but across the country. And then, of course, it is not only a public safety issue, it is a public health issue, and that means treatment, and we have to treat it as the illness that it is because it affects so many of our loved ones, and we want to provide all of the available services and support that they need to make it back. This is a battle that, particularly when it comes to our children, that we cannot afford to lose.
Thank you. Okay, we have our next question. It's Victoria Daza. Victoria? Okay, great.
Excuse me? Yes, she can Sure. So Victoria is from Long Island Jobs with Justice, and she has a question for you all. And this question will begin this time with candidate Kamen.
For being here. As someone who could potentially represent the state with the second highest immigrant population, what is your stance on the Deferred Action Program for parents of Americans?
My position is similar to Senator Schumer's. I believe in the DREAM Act. I think that we have millions upon millions of people that have lived their lives here, that are paying taxes, that are part of our fabric of our community, and that there are legalities and concerns regarding the status of some or many, or one or many in a particular family. But we need a pathway to citizenship. We need to respect the fact that families should be kept together, and that if there is a mechanism to find a way to allow a family to stay together by staying here, then we need to find it. There are selfish reasons. Our country cannot handle the loss of this incredible, valuable workforce. So that alone should put pause to some of this, what I would consider a right-wing push to just blame somebody else for all the ills of the world. The reality is we've all come from somewhere else. Some came through the proper ways, some maybe not so. But when people are born here, when people have lived a law-abiding life, when people have gotten jobs, pay into the system, or in fact, pay into the system without receiving some of the benefits that others get, we need to make it more fair and equitable. We need to pursue a social justice component of how we treat people who are part of our American fabric. People from other countries, immigrants, however you got here, are very much part of the American fabric, and I believe that the DREAM Act is a great place to start. I think it's a shame that the Republican right, at one point, there were some who were willing to have that discussion. As we got into presidential politics, we lost those as well, and that hateful approach, I think, will ultimately have a negative effect on our country. So I would go in a completely different direction.
Okay, thank you. Candidate Clark.
Hi, Victoria. I was actually speaking with Victoria about the DREAM Act. You remember a few months back. But I mean, this is not the DREAM Act. We're talking about deferred action on children. You know, we're in a political system right now where the only action that the government can take is executive action, and that's not sustainable. We need to have a Congress in place that understands the need of immigrants and that will provide a path towards citizenship. I think that it's just so sad